Welcome to the Explainer. Sometimes you just need the right tool for the job. Well, today we're opening up a toolkit that's about 2,500 years old, and it's designed for one thing: getting a cleaner mind. It comes from an ancient text that gives a step-by-step guide to ending what it calls our mental defilements. So what in the world are we actually trying to clean up here?
So what is a defilement? Well, the original text is surprisingly graphic. It calls them asava, which literally means the discharge from a sore. Yeah, it's this idea that things like greed, hatred, and just plain confusion are like mental pollutants that ooze out, cloud our thinking, and keep us feeling stuck. It's a really visceral metaphor for the internal mess this toolkit is designed to fix.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll get clear on these pollutants we're dealing with. Then we'll look at the specific type of thinking that can actually free us. From there, we'll dive into the 7 specific tools in the kit. And finally, we'll see what happens when you actually master them.
Okay, first up, the mind's pollutants. Before we can even think about opening this toolkit, we've got to know exactly what we're working on. What's the problem we're trying to solve?
And right out of the gate, the text makes this incredibly powerful point. It says that freedom from all this mental gunk, it doesn't come from just blindly following rules or wishful thinking. No, it's for the person who knows and sees, the one who's willing to develop a direct, honest insight into how their own mind actually works.
And that idea leads us straight to the master key for this entire toolkit, a very specific way of thinking. You see, if you get this part right, all the other tools will work. But if you get it wrong, they really won't. So the text basically says we have 2 modes of thinking. On one hand, you've got the irrational mind. This is the part of us that just spins its wheels, asking questions that only create more problems. And, you guessed it, feed those defilements. But then there's the rational mind, which focuses on questions that actually lead to solutions and, well, starves them out.
So what does that irrational thinking actually sound like? It's getting totally bogged down in these huge, unanswerable philosophical rabbit holes. The text calls this a thicket of views. And it's a perfect description, right? It's a mental trap that just leads to more knots, more confusion, and a whole lot more anxiety.
The rational alternative, on the other hand, is to be, well, ruthlessly practical. You focus your mind like a laser on a really simple diagnostic loop. What is the actual problem, the suffering, right here, right now? What's causing it? What would it look like for it to end? And what is the most direct, practical path to get there?
So once you have that foundation, that rational problem-solving mindset, then the text says we can open the toolkit. And this isn't just one magic wand. It's a set of 7 distinct tools, each one designed for a different kind of mental job. Now, the first and most critical tool isn't really a technique you do. It's more like a fundamental breakthrough you have. It's all about seeing the truth and gaining that core insight we talked about right at the beginning. This one is the big one.
When you truly see, for yourself, the cause and effect nature of your own mind, the text says you permanently sever 3 mental chains or fetters. First, the belief in some fixed, separate self, gone. That crippling doubt about whether any of this works, gone. And the trap of thinking that just following rules can save you, that's gone too. This insight cuts them all off, right at the root. Okay, so after that really deep insight, the toolkit brings us right back down to earth. The next 4 tools are super practical. They're all designed for just navigating the messiness of daily life. These 4 are like your first line of defense out in the real world: restraint, using, enduring, and avoiding. And when you put them together, they create a really balanced strategy for how you engage with, well, pretty much everything that comes your way. Let's break these down real quick. Restraint is all about managing your senses, so you're not getting hooked and dragged around by every little thing you see or hear. Using is about seeing things like food or clothes for their actual purpose, to sustain you, not just for indulgence. Enduring is that ability to patiently bear what's unavoidable, like a headache or some criticism. But, and this is key, it's not about being a doormat. That's where the 4th tool, avoiding, comes in. It's the wisdom to see a truly dangerous situation, like a wild animal or just a toxic environment,
and have the good sense to just walk away.
All right, so the last 2 tools in our kit, they shift the focus from the outside world to the inside one. Think of these as proactive exercises for your mental hygiene, for actively shaping your own inner landscape. And these 2 tools, they're like a 1-2 punch. On one side, you've got dispelling. This is the active practice of noticing a harmful thought, say one of anger or malice, and consciously deciding, nope, not today, and you let it go. You eliminate it. But on the other side, you've got developing. See, it's not enough to just weed the garden of your mind. You also have to intentionally plant some flowers.
So what kind of flowers are we planting? The text gives us this amazing list of 7 awakening factors. And look at this. It's not just about being calm. It includes investigation, energy, even rapture, all alongside things like mindfulness, tranquility, and equanimity. This describes a really full, vibrant, and balanced inner world that you consciously build piece by piece.
So after all of this work, right? The seeing, the restraining, the enduring, the dispelling, the developing, what's the final result? What's the payoff? This is where we get to what the text calls true freedom. And maybe one of the most important takeaways from this whole thing is this. There is no single magic bullet. The mind's problems are complicated and diverse, so your toolkit has to be too. This isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. It's about having the wisdom to know you need the right tool for the right job. And the final outcome? The text says that a person who truly masters this entire toolkit has cut off craving, untied the fetters, and made an end of suffering. This isn't just describing someone who's a little calmer. This is the description of an arahant, a person who has achieved complete and total mental liberation. So the toolkit is now open on the table. All 7 tools are laid out. The only question left is the one for you. Looking at this 2,500-year-old list, from simple avoidance all the way to actively cultivating rapture, which tool does your mind need most right now, today?